UEFA Champions League. I'm hyped. Adam's hyped. Julian's hyped. We're all fucking hyped, dude. Listen, guys, big game. A lot of action to unpack. Let's get right into it. Listen, I think we need to do justice to probably the best game that it didn't really live up to the hype, but obviously the preview too was crazy. I think a lot of people talked about it. Manchester City, Real Madrid. Adam, straight away, what are your thoughts, dude? What are you unpacking from that two-legged series?
Expected. That's all I gotta say. I mean, come on now. Like, this isn't an amazing Real Madrid team, and yet they didn't pose any. It didn't seem like they were challenged at all by City. But City's another story. We mentioned this in the preview show. Um, something's wrong. Something's wrong. And I guess it's Rodri, right? I mean, he's the only one missing. Guess he's that important, huh?
Yeah,
Craziness, though.
Yeah,
I agree.
and I will say to add to that, I expected Madrid to advance because I do think Madrid is slowly starting to heat up a little bit. And City, obviously, it seems like City and league play, they've been not looking too bad. It seems to be that they're losing the big games at least, like they lost recently to Arsenal.
But that's the difference.
But then when we go to Champions League, they've just looked terrible. They barely squeezed in. They were outside looking in on that last match day, and they end up getting a result against Club Brugge. So this game, like, I didn't expect them to drop 6 on them, but it's just obviously the injuries are plaguing him. Rodri, Haaland basically didn't even play. Rob Stones is now hurt. He was out after like 8 minutes.
John Stones.
This team, John Stones. I said Rob Stones. John Stones. And then Kevin De
Same
Bruyne
shit.
in and out of lineups constantly. Jack Grealish hasn't really been the same player that he once was. It's just this team is just slowly falling apart. I think Pep is getting kind of figured out with his system too. I think that's part of it. After years of just domination, it seems like they're slowly starting to get figured out. And obviously Ancelotti kind of knows that. I mean, he's beaten City the past 3 years in a row now. It's not looking good for him. We're going to dive deeper into it in another video, but be on the lookout for that. But yeah, I am surprised at how bad it was, but I did have Madrid going.
Echo exactly what you and Adam said, Julian. Listen, I think it wasn't surprise, being probably one of the only Erling Haaland simps out here in the world, dude, listen, I think not starting Haaland and putting Omar Marmoush, listen, dude, he's not a young guy, 25 years old, Egyptian striker coming from
Haaland was hurt.
Haaland was hurt, but I think the moment was just too big. And also the same thing with Kusanov as well, a young kid who's Uzbekistan. I mean, dude, he just, and also not even throwing him back in the center back role, just putting him in the right back position. I think it really, I kind of think it showed. I mean, especially that second goal, dude. Listen, I mean, we think we can all give a round of applause to Kylian Mbappe. What a fucking hat trick, man. I mean, he really showed up. He showed out. We're not too surprised, but we are also taken back a little bit. Myself, I have to say, just kind of seeing that and seeing what Kylian was able to do. But like you guys said, Real Madrid moves on and City is going to be looking back at what they need to do better next season. But next game I want to hit you guys with, Julian, I want to go to you first. AC Milan, your boys. Right. I know you're conflicted on this one, dude. Feyenoord, you got your Jalen Mitchell, your young stud, but then also on the other side you have your boys in AC Milan. What are you taking away from that two-legged series?
Absolutely disappointment from AC Milan. The first leg I was not pleased with. I did not think they did too well. They gave it up late in the end of the game. And the thing too is it's been the same story all year long where there's just the inconsistencies, especially in league play. I mean, I've watched pretty much every Milan game this year. It's one moment you look amazing, everything's clicking, everything's meshing up well. I've loved the offseason. This is a video I've been wanting to talk about too. It's just like I love the offseason transfers outside of the Kyle Walker thing. I think Kyle Walker's washed, but I love the João Felix move. I loved oh my god, I'm drawing blank on everybody else. Santi Jimenez. I love those two moves in the attack, but for whatever reason, it came down to Champions League play. It's just not clicking. I don't know what's happening. And Joao Felix, you're hoping he can get out of that inconsistency rut that he's had pretty much his entire career. It's like, I like the guy, dude. I really do. I love his style of play. But it's like one moment he's just like, he can't finish. He can't get it together. But then the next, he's just like, pinning passes everywhere. And this is another one of those where it just felt like, that first leg, just they weren't being able to connect them because it's really been that final pass. They look good in the midfield. They're dominating the game. But when it comes down to that final pass to score, they can't. It's just slightly off. Well, it might be just like here or there, and as for the second leg, Teo Hernandez pretty much killed the game for them. They looked amazing. They're pretty much dominating the game at the San Siro. And then Teo Hernandez with his idiotic plays, both cards just stupid right before half or right after half. And it made no sense. And then I didn't like Jose Sal's subs. I didn't like that you took out Santi. I didn't like you took out Pulisic, who's been your best player all year, to put in the young kid at left back. I just didn't like the moves at all. And I thought, if anything, you should have took out Joao Felix, but that's here or there for another day. Shout out to Feyenoord. They are making an incredible run. They've been kind of off and on. Like one moment they make a big win, and then the next they lose to like Lille 6-0 or something like that. But yeah. And shout out to my boy Jalen Mitchell getting some minutes for Feyenoord. I love to see it. But yeah. What's your guys' thoughts on the game?
What do you got, Adam?
Well, I do want to start with that Teo Hernandez second yellow. I just thought, I mean, it must be said, a lot of people are like, damn, that's a bold call to make. Yeah, I guess it's a bold call to make because it changes the game so wildly, but it's the right call to make. I don't understand. I mean, I want to make a point that I think that referees should do that more often. I don't think they should be afraid to just say, you know what, I don't care. It's a 1-goal game in aggregate in the second leg of the Champions League, and you're gonna pull that bullshit on a yellow? I don't care. He's like, so what? And he has the gall to look confused, and everybody's like, come on, just get off the just get off the field.
And I love Teo, but his fucking head, dude. I don't get it.
Yeah. But it's hard to say that it was just on Teo because watching that game, that's one of the games I watched the most. It just seemed like Milan lacked just something in that final third. Joao Felix, great player, and I do agree. I still love the signing. Just wasn't connecting for him today. But what I will say is, how shocking is it?
Adam lagged out a little bit. Oh, all right, he's
got him
back.
back. I think we got him back. There we go.
Yep, you're back.
I was gonna say, how shocking is it? And I will say this to you, Julian. The fuck?
Oh, well, once you give your point while he comes back.
All right, I think we got him. Adam, you back?
Oh.
Everything's fucking moving fine on my screen, and I can hear you. So that's probably the browser.
All right, you're good now.
It's probably the browser being weird. So let me close some tabs. Let me close some tabs out. You know how it is. But I do want to leave it with this, Julian. Obviously, didn't do too much, but how does it feel that former Inter Miami man is the one who fucking does it? He has a hat trick. He has a hat trick worth of goals for Inter Miami in 40 plus appearances, but he gets the one that matters against Milan. I just,
yeah. Julian Carranza. I called it the moment he got on the field.
Before I saw his name, I saw his face. I was like, I know him. I forgot. I just didn't put 2 and 2 together. I was like, I know this guy. What's his name? And then he turns around and I see the back of his jersey. I'm like, Carranza. I was like, come on, man. I was like, hey. But yeah, last thing I'll say about this game, I did find it interesting, and this is why I think I wanted to start with the Teo Hernandez red. I found it interesting that even before Feyenoord also got a red card, Milan towards the end of the game they were dominating. Possession-wise, the chances. You really don't see that too often with a team that's down to 10 men. So you can only imagine what kind of sustained pressure they would have been having if they had the full 11 going into those last few minutes. But again, like I mentioned, it just wasn't clicking for them today. So I don't really know if it would have made a difference because they had a lot of chances at the end, just didn't make it count.
Yeah, like you guys said, shout out Philadelphia Union, superstar man, Julian Carranza, dude, big MLS shout guy. Listen, dude, he can do it in the MLS. He can do it in Champions League. It looked good, looked great. Feyenoord, that team looks solid, man. I can't even lie. Honestly, I think both of you guys already hit the nail on the head with Teo Hernandez. Listen, dude, diving, we know the European game is changing a lot. We know the game itself is changing and developing quicker. Guys don't want to see guys flop. I think Teo Hernandez absolutely killed that game. I think Yunus Musa, Reinders, not the worst game in that second leg, but really just kind of you could tell they weren't there. I think Pulisic was probably the best player. I agree with you, Julian, taking him off. Just kind of was a little bit of a head scratcher. Like, why are they doing that? Especially after the Theo Hernandez red card. So that's all I really got from that game, guys. I want to roll next. Adam, I want to hit you. PSG, Brest, and I'm not talking about Titty FC. I'm talking about Brest from France. Listen, I mean, this is a team that got absolutely whitewashed, dude. They got slapped in the face. I mean, is there anything much more to say, or just PSG took care of business?
Well, I will say this though, for those of you who watched the preview, I did clarify after. I wanted to have some fun and I did pick Brest. I truthfully clarified that PSG is probably gonna win this, but I just thought it was gonna be closer than people thought. So, I mean, Jesus Christ, shout out PSG for showing up.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get something. It must be Champions League fever because I can guarantee you are not getting that same result in the league. You're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will say on this game, just utter domination. Like I was high on Brest because they had a really strong start to the Champions League season. They looked really good. They were in the top 8 for a few moments. I was like, man, they might surprise some people. They might actually push PSG to the brink. But man, this was just a bloodbath from start to end. And I will say this too: this is a PSG team that is heating up. I like this team. It feels like they're playing freer without having Mbappe and Messi and Neymar. It seems like they're just a little bit more like willing to be themselves. Barcola, Dembele's been balling. Now
Yeah.
Moane
Wolo
is
money.
now Kolo Moani is now. I'm so bad with names, dude, especially on the spot. But now Juventus. But yeah, man, PSG's heating up. I think they're going to be a scary team, to be honest with you. But yeah, let's move on to the next one. I'll say this one's going to be a quick one for us too. Dortmund, Dortmund, Sporting,
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, dude,
dude.
what's that game? That Sporting, they just played a friendly match. I think that second leg, Julie and I talked about this earlier. Listen, a lot of you guys already know it looked like they didn't even give a shit. Cal didn't give a shit. The head coach didn't give a shit. Obviously, they lost Ruben Almiron, so I don't even think the fan base really even gave a shit, dude. They just kind of looked like they went to Dortmund, go drink a couple pints of beer, have a good time in Germany for the weekend, and just set sail, try to go back home. And I mean, I guess in a sense, it's good for Sporting Lisbon. They can go back home, try to win the Portuguese league, as I know it's heating up right now at the end of the season for them. But yeah, other than that, Dortmund looks solid. Gio Reyna made a little return. So U.S.
Yeah,
men's national team Sims.
I will say this Dortmund team's pretty exciting. I think Adeyemi's had an amazing season so far, especially in Champions League play. And then you got to talk about the leading Golden Boot in Champions League, Girassi for Dortmund. Dude has been on a roll. He did miss a pen in that second leg, but we'll forgive him on that. But this is the first game where he hasn't had a goal contribution. This guy has been lethal all over the field. He's been one of the best strikers in Champions League and one of the best in the world so far. Girassi, that him and Adeyemi has been linking up super well. But
Yeah.
yeah, Adam, any words on this game? Or it's just
This is one. I mean, it's a cliche, but it's hard to tell if Sporting, if they would just weren't up to it, or if Dortmund are actually a sneaky team that are better
Yeah.
than a lot of people think. I mean, in reality, it's probably a little bit of both. In the first leg, I think Dortmund pretty much won the tie right then and there. I didn't think that there was a shot after that. Dortmund just were the better team. Sporting did not look like a team that
Oh,
is in the championship hut for for Portugal. So definitely a little surprising that it wasn't as close. Sporting, I mean, not scoring a single goal over both legs is just not good. So you would hope that they want to use that excuse. I guess if they show up, they go back to the league and they start doing, taking care of business, then
yeah.
I guess you can't really be too mad at them, and you can be like, okay, fine, let them win their league this year, and then they can try their Champions League. But it's the Champions League. Um, I just don't know. I think it's stupid if they really are just saying, you know what, fuck it, we lost already. Probably the case because they did lose it already in leg one. You're not. I just don't think it's possible to overcome a 3-0 second leg deficit at
Yeah.
Dortmund. I mean, it's just well, I've said this time and time again. It's the most difficult place to play in Europe, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. I agreed. I do you want to hop over guys to another country in the pond, another Portuguese team, and that would be the boys of Benfica versus AS Monaco. What a second leg thriller. That was a true Champions League game. Julian, I want to get your thoughts real quick. First run with you. What do you have to take away from that? Pavlidis, man. I mean, incredible.
Yeah, man. This first, I want to say with like Benfica, it is one of those teams where you just don't know which Benfica you're going to get. Either they're going to be high powered, moving the ball, scoring a ton of goals like they've done at times, but then like they'll drop nothing. Like I don't get it. They've been such a hard team to predict. Monaco, I've actually liked this campaign. I thought they've looked pretty good, and this was one of these games when me and Adam were doing our predictions where I couldn't pick a winner. I really struggled. I ended up leaning towards Monaco because they did make some big moves in the offseason, signing a striker and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's just one of those games. The ball just kind of rolled the other way, and Benfica
Yeah,
took it home.
yeah. Adam.
Yeah, I agree. We were both very torn on this one. If I remember correctly, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong. I could be just talking out of my ass and just looking at the score now and thinking that's what I picked. But I felt like I was leaning Benfica on this one. Um, I felt that, and I think part of this was the fact that Arsenal in group play or league play, whatever you want to call it, did play Sporting and pretty much destroyed them, made them look like they were playing in the Europa League. Um, so I will admit that that plays into my head a little bit. So part there is a little bias, but I did think that Benfica is the better Portuguese team. So Portuguese team is going to move on. It's going to be them. Not just because of the tie. I do think they are the better team. It was just a little bit. Um, and I think they're probably going to win the Portuguese league. But I mean, it was a great game. Monaco gave them everything that they could. Um, and for once, a game that, or a tie that we were, not sure where to go on this one actually showed itself in the scoreline and how it played out. Very, very close. You could play that tie probably three more times and get different results.
Yeah, yeah, I agree
All
completely. I
right,
think we talked about it,
go
Pavlidis,
ahead,
man.
Will.
Listen, shout out Pavlidis, dude. Listen, this guy, a lot of people did not believe in him. His journey started earlier. The Greek god over in the Netherlands, he was at William and then went over to AZ Alkmaar, did decent works there. Obviously, didn't have the greatest campaign last season or season before that. I think he's just been tearing it up, man. If I'm not wrong, he's the third joint goal scorer with 8 goals right now in the Champions League. Shout out to the guy. And that's without Di Maria. And that's also with Nicolas Otamendi kind of making a clumsy mistake there. I hate to say it at the end. The Capitan not doing his best. But next game, I know we're all eager to get on this one and we'll talk about it. And guys, Atalanta Club Bruges. Adam, I want to hit you first with it, dude. Listen, what are your biggest takeaways? Did Atalanta sell? What could they have done better?
I Maybe I sold Club Bruges short, but this one shocked me the most out of any tie. I
Mm.
think I would have been shocked if Club Brugge won anyway, even if it was close. I think I would have been like, damn, that's pretty shocking. But a 5-2 aggregate is, I mean, Atalanta, I know people look at it and they go, oh, they finished with whatever. They got a red card in the last couple minutes. The game was over already. They lost. It was done. Um, the whole tie was over. So that
Yeah.
one was shocking. I really don't know what to make of it because Atalanta, I mean, they've been performing really well in the league. Um, I mean, is there any like Julian, what do you think? Like, is there any like have they been struggling recently in the league? Is there any sign that this was, coming?
No, I mean the biggest thing that I've seen because I've been kind of following Atalanta a good amount this season because I've been pretty high on them. I've liked a lot from what they say. I love a lot of their players, and obviously Lookman is like to me. I've been saying it from the rooftops that he's been one of the most underrated players in the world, and Look, I'm just saying, I'm looking at the stats for this game. They had 65% possession. They had an XG of 3.28 with 30
Oh,
shots on goal, 5 big chances. And I was watching that game. Countless hitting the post, goal line clearances, and Atalanta could not put it in the back of the net. Like they just couldn't do it. And then the same thing went for the first leg too. Like let me pull up the stats on the first leg, and they had this one was they had an XG of 1, which makes sense, but they had 12 shots on goal, 1 big chance, so they didn't look as too hot the first game. But that second leg, they had no reason to lose that game, and this has kind of been the story for Atalanta this entire Champions League is when it comes to like the big games that they need to win, like the Real Madrid game, for example, it's like they can't finish the game. It's like you need to put it away. You need to be lethal when you need to. And I think that's part of the reason why they're slowly starting to kind of dip off a form from the Serie A title race right now, because they were in first place for a while, but now they've dropped down behind Napoli. So, and then obviously I don't understand. I know Lookman, he's also been hurt the past 6 games, and he comes in at half, which I feel like this is a must-win game. This is your best player. You need to put him in immediately the entire game, because the moment he came in, within 30 seconds, he scores a goal.
yeah.
And then they get the pen, and then
He should have taken the
misses
penalty.
the pen. It was a
Let's
bad.
be real.
And then look, I don't like this. I don't like how the manager, the front offices, the management says that, oh, he's one of the worst penalty takers I've ever seen. I'm like, that you don't. That's such a cop out. Fucking, I hate that. Like,
Yeah.
don't blame your best player for the reason. First off, that team lost because of a multitude of reasons. One, they got killed in transition, which shout out to Club Brugge, because they took advantage of every single shot that they had, because they put it right in the where it needed to be, especially that third goal. I mean, what a goal from outside the box. But like, to throw your player under the bus and calling him the worst penalty taker you've ever seen, even though he has been by far your best player, your best attacking option, your best playmaker, because I didn't like that at all. I think that's bullshit. Granted, like I said, yeah, sure, it was a bad pen. Yeah, he kind of like people read the keeper read it all the way. But I thought it was a really disappointing game from Atalanta. They get the red out of frustration, pretty much. I mean, when you look at that game, the amount of shots they've had on goal was unreal, and they just could. They should have put in like at least 7 goals. I'm not even kidding, over the entire course of the series. But as for Club Brugge, I do want to say Club Brugge has been very, very good. I've liked what I've seen from them. Their games against Aston Villa and stuff like that. They've looked really good defensively. They've looked really solid, and they've looked very good in transition. They've pretty much won all their games being just pretty much lethal in transition. They've been probably the best transition team in all of Champions League football so far.
Yeah.
In terms of like their percentage of when they score and when they don't. But yeah.
Yeah, dude. Listen, I agree with you, man. Honestly, the Gasparini shout or negative shout, like you said, Julian, I completely agree, dude. It's just not. It's not right to say that the guy who single-handedly carried, arguably, this team to a Europa League, not making a final, not a semi, the championship, to win you a Europa League, and single-handedly, almost basically carrying you pretty much throughout this past season in Serie A and whatnot. You just can't say a criticism like that, dude. I think that's just not right to be saying he's the worst penalty taker ever. Listen, I agree. You obviously had Matteo Retugi on the field, who is their normal pen taker. Adeola Lookman,
And
came
he had
in.
a tough offsides. That offsides call was close. I feel
It,
bad.
it was close, yeah. Well, like you said, dude, shout out Tabli, shout out Jukla, both getting the goals. Tabli, the teenager, getting the brace in that game over in Atalanta. So big shout out to Club Brugge. Dude, we know they're a sticky team. We saw them already in the league phase against Manchester City, what they were able to do, really, really making this team difficult, really putting a lot of heavy possession on them, a lot of counterattacks, very quick speed with Jutlaga. And then also even in their center back role with the Ecuadorian Joel Ordonez, who had himself a hell of a game. But guys, I want to go ahead and roll. I want to roll to another Italian team that got bounced. PSV versus Juventus. Adam, I want to roll with you first. Was this meant to happen? I feel for our American boys in Weston McKennie and Timothy Weah.
Yeah, this isn't a shock. I've actually, that was actually a theme that me and Julian touched on when we were doing previews. Is I was actually kind of big on some of these Dutch teams. I felt like, they've been playing well. They proved that they can beat some of these good teams. And Julian made a point where he said he's felt like that, many years, but then they always disappoint. So I'm glad to see that PSV finally somebody didn't disappoint, actually came out there, um, and it was a good tie, and this is one of those closer ones where I felt like genuinely could possibly go either way, but I mean, I got to give big credit to PSV there. I mean, to 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 win that in extra time, even though yeah, they were at home for the second leg, but it was not a tough tie. Um, but they performed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
I will say for PSV, yeah, for some reason this Champions League, they've looked really good. They haven't looked the best in league play. They probably not going to win the league. Feyenoord has been
Yeah, agree.
just really dominant in league play, but and then also this is a PSV team that is winning without some big pieces. Obviously, they're missing the American guys and Pepe,
Another Pepe.
Millie Tillman, Millie Tillman's probably been one of their best. Has been their best player for them. Des, who's been out for a while. But so Luke De Jong, he filled in that role at the striker position. And yeah, they were strong defensively. They held up. Juventus, it felt like they couldn't really create much, and they definitely couldn't put it away, especially towards the end of the half. It seemed like they had a lot of opportunities to score, and they couldn't. Mihailovic, I'm just not super high on that guy. I just feel like he's just not
Yeah.
as lethal as some people make him out to be. Timothy Weah had one hell of a banger goal from outside the box on the rebound, but the Juve, they just couldn't get it done, and they lose this Juve team. Man, they continue to just not be that Juve we're used to over the past 10 years that we saw them. So
Yeah, this I agree with you guys exactly. Shout out Tim Weah, dude. Not just in that second leg, also in that first leg. I think honestly, for a guy that wasn't getting the most minutes last season, wasn't really playing the most with Juve, even during the Serie A, big shout out Tim Weah, dude. I think he's really shown to the team, and I've seen a lot of like people within the Juve community kind of come out and say that they really love him. They love Timothy a lot, and he has a big future with them. So good for him that aspect. But yeah, listen, I think Adam hit it well, man. It's not too shocking, It's shocking in the sense of like, wow, the Juve crash down is huge, but dude, big ups to PSV, Flamengo, obviously Luke De Jong. Like you said, Julian, without the likes of Ricardo Pepe, Malik Tillman, they haven't had Serginho Dest since last year, So it's a lot of things weighing down on a PSV team, but good for their boys. They were able to move on. Final game though, guys. Want to roll to it. Celtic, Bayern. Lots of fun in this one. Julian, I want to knock it off with you first, man. What are you taking away from this game?
valiant effort from Celtic. I really thought this was going to be a blowout. I predicted this to be a blowout. Pretty much, it was just Celtic holding on for dear life, especially in that second leg in particular. Bayern, I feel like Bayern, they're going to get knocked out that next round. They
Yeah.
just can't. They're just another team. They just feel like they cannot create, similar to Milan, where they can't get that final pass. And it seems like against more quality teams, and they just really struggled. It came down to the late heroics of Alfonso Davies beating Cameron Carter Vickers to the little Concacaf
Mm.
showdown at that final goal. But honestly, it came down to Bayern just, I don't want to say getting a little lucky, but I mean, in a way, the ball kind of bounced their way and Davies was there. But yeah, I mean, valiant effort by Celtic. I'm not super high on this Bayern team. I was at the beginning of the season because they're really hot, but they've really cooled off a lot lately, and it feels like they're just not. Like I said, it's really the creating and the in and out of lineups. I'm sorry, I've been saying I think Leroy Sané is just an overrated player. Like I am not high on that man at all. I don't get the hype. I feel like if he wasn't German, like he would have already left Bayern by now. But yeah, that's pretty much what I got for the game. What'd you think?
Yeah, it's like Sane's always been on the cusp of being a world-class player, but he's never quite, you know, made it there. Like it's like, oh, he's so close. He's just gonna have that breakout year, and he just never really does. But yeah, I was actually pretty disappointed with Bayern. I thought Celtic, they definitely gave it their all. Um, but I couldn't agree more with Julian. I think that this shows signs of just a Bayern team that, with the right matchup can easily get bounced out next round. Um, you know, even though they were the better team, Celtics holding on, playing defensive in that second leg. That's Celtics' game plan. They wanted to go to extra time at that point. They knew what they were doing, so I don't think you can put too much blame on Celtic for that. But yeah, Bayern getting a arguably lucky, last second header to put them through.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, well, good job. You beat Celtic. You were supposed to. So now, but wasn't very convincing, and just leaves you with question marks for the next round.
Yeah, agreed. Listen, honestly, they're either going to be playing. I'm looking. It's either Inter Milan or waiting for the draw tomorrow, or an Atletico Madrid. I don't think either one of those teams they're going to look at and say, "Oh yeah, hell yeah, that's the team that we can take on." I think you guys
I
said
will say
it
that's
well.
a favorable matchup for either one of those teams. It's not a bad matchup for them.
No,
not a bad
it's not a
one.
bad matchup. But I will say, though, in the aspect of Bayern Munich, lack of effort. We talked about it earlier on the pod about Sporting Lisbon, kind of just playing like a friendly match, not even looking. Bayern looked the same, and I have to say, and I watched a lot of this game. It was the final league phase for them when they played Slovan Bratislava. I think they won 3-1, 2-1. And in all due respect, Slovan, I mean, my boy Cesar Blackman's on the team, and I think he's the best player arguably on that team, no question. Slovan was probably the worst team in Champions League this whole season, with them or young boys, So, they just kind of been churning these past couple weeks in Champions League and these past few months. Bayern just don't look like they have that possession. You guys said Leroy Sané. Listen, I loved this guy when I was younger. I remember watching him in the 2016 Olympics with Germany. Serge Gnabry. I mean, this guy was the freaking man. He was the guy, the man, the myth, the legend. He just kind of looks like the man now. Like, he don't really look like he has that legend aspect to him where he can ball out, play out. I don't think he's the worst player in the field, but I just don't see it. And Harry Kane, I mean, great. Obviously, what Harry Kane can bring to the table. We all obviously know it, but just hasn't really been producing these last few games with Bayern Munich. Obviously, shout out Kasper Schmeichel. I think he was player of the match. I think Schmeichel
Peter
really
Schmeichel's son.
Peter Schmeichel's son, dude. Listen, emotional man, but dude, he really, if it's not for him, if it's not for, Trusty dude as well, that center back duo, the American, the little CONCACAF dude that they got with him and CCV, I think they look great. But yeah, hopefully better luck next year to Celtic. I honestly always feel bad for this team. I genuinely feel like they could make a more of a Europa League run. Champions League's just, it's just hard. But big shout out to them.
Now, they're 1967 Euro winners, European Cup winners. All right. Don't tarnish Celtic like that.
Put some fucking respect on them, Will.
Maybe Schmeichel's like great.
They have
was there.
more European Cups than Arsenal.
That's true. That's true. Fun fact. All right, guys. Any final thoughts? Champions League, wrapping it up. Anything you guys took away from this window?
I loved it. I thought it was a really good round. Playoff round's awesome. Me and Adam kind of touched it last week with the league phase. I love it. Be honest with you, I think this whole new format has been sick. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me. And if you guys are listening on audio platforms, please leave a rating and a comment. Spotify has comments now, so leave a comment, guys, on Spotify. Yeah, if you think we're stupid, if you think we don't know what we're talking about, if you think we have the ball knowledge of Albert Einstein, let us know down below. And yeah, Will and Adam, do you guys have any final thoughts?
Bring on the draw.
Yeah, same. I'm ready, man. I'm ready. Nothing for me.
All right. Peace out, everybody. See you guys in the next one.